Beth, you made the long trip over the ocean to tell us your story. So what do you think, what could we do to change our habits or attitudes and to explore this unknown country?
So powerful for us is when we decided to just step into a neighborhood, right? That we just said, enough trying to sort it out here first in the organization. Let's just go to a place, find out who lives there, and find out what matters to people there. And then we go back to the organization and we work on changes.
The most powerful way to change the culture of the organization is to set some new stories going. And the most powerful way to set those new stories going is to work right where the people are living every day.
In other words, the community building is not the hard part. It's really changing the dynamic in the organization.
Can I understand this as a sort of mutual exchange process? You go out, you change also your neighborhood, but you go back, being changed and then changing your organization. How can we create also a culture of welcoming, of acceptance in our surroundings? For example, dealing with people with asylum seekers, which is now in Europe one of the great problems and challenges for the next years, I guess. And this will influence also our work in the disability sector, I'm sure. So what could you see? Which challenges or which ways?
There's real work to be done to get the organization as a whole to adapt to the messages in the UN Convention, which actually provides an enormous challenge but there's no reason to wait on the possibility that there might be a number of people who'd like to live in their own home now instead of living in a group home, who'd like to have a job out in the labor market like Article 27 says they have a right to. Then what would it take at the managerial level and the bookkeeping level and the relations with government level to not be in the way of that?
I find it very interesting. They say it's a new spiritual problem that we see us as the good guys and others as the bad. Sometimes it's also vice versa, that within the disability scene, the service providers are seen as the bad ones because traditional ones, not being inclusive.
One of the reasons that some people cast service providers as the bad guys is that for perfectly good historical reasons, you are holding on to people. You're not doing by people what the convention asks you to do. And so if you can convict yourselves of that reality, then you're starting from a truthful base. You and your senior management and your board have a whole organization challenge, right? Which is to decide whether you're going to take the UN Convention seriously or not. What that means, especially strategically in the 10 and 20-year future, right? So there's a whole organization adaptation problem that you can only cope with at the level of the whole. And so that whole agenda needs to be worked out in terms of what do we believe it means. Are group living arrangements that people are placed in by their families or by somebody else or the only option for people? Does that vindicate people's right under that article or not? And if we decide that it doesn't, we don't need to be ashamed. We just need to figure out how are we going to not be in that position? What are we going to do about real estate? What are we going to do about labor contracts? There's a whole lot of that stuff, right?
I see there are three investments that you're making: person-centered, process, person-centered journey, organizational change, and community building, right? That if you're making an investment in any of them, you have to invest in all three. But that often at the leadership level, the leadership really has no idea how many things are in the way. I mean, the agencies that we work with, for example, in Harlem, they're very well-meaning people. I mean, they want to do more of the kinds of things that people are asking them to do and the UN Convention suggests and so forth. But they are so constrained and they don't even know it. And it's not until the sort of flashlight comes up from the bottom up that says, so we say we want people to go to work. Do we realize how many things are in the way? Even of working a little bit. I mean, I'm not even talking about big full-time jobs. I'm talking about 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week. We have so many reasons, for example, that people can't go to work.
The most important is to change the culture, both on a personal level and on a community level. Yeah, thanks a lot.